This is 5 Live Formula One with Jenny Gow.
Hello and welcome to a beautiful sun-bathed Spa-Francorchamps ahead of round 14 of the Formula One World Championship. Max Verstappen leads the standings by a whopping 80 points. Everybody's been off on their summer break and had a nice rest, a bit of relaxation, and now they are back and fully focused to take on the remaining races of this season. There are 9 of them. Let's tick another one off. Jack Nicholls, this one should be a goodie, and there are a few little white clouds in the sky, but otherwise delightful out there.
Yeah, beautiful day, no rain like last year. Still have nightmares about last year's race commentary, but this year...
So do the listeners.
Exactly, 4 hours with nothing going on, but I think we're going to have an hour and 20 minutes with a lot going on this afternoon. We've got Verstappen starting from 14th, Leclerc starting from 15th, Sainz versus Perez for the win, Fernando Alonso, as is his wont, causing trouble from third place in the Alpine. 1 stop, maybe 2 stop. Track position here not as vital maybe as it is at some other places, so maybe you can gamble the 2 stop instead of the 1 stop. Looking forward to it. A Ferrari, a Red Bull on the front row, 4 different brands, manufacturers in the top 4 positions. Great stuff. 5 to 6 different manufacturers. Actually, we've got 8 different manufacturers in the top 9 positions on the grid. When was the last time that happened?
Only you'd have planned that out. It would have been brilliant.
I know. I started it with the top 3, and then it all just kept going.
Well, you did a really good job. That's the main thing. It is a very warm day compared to Friday's running, for example. Rain, we saw that. There's none of that forecast for today. Sam Bird, Formula E driver for Jaguar. This is a circuit everyone loves, isn't it?
Every driver that I've ever known, ever spoken to, adores driving this circuit. It's a circuit that you really enjoy driving, you can attack, and I think we're in for a great race here today. Simply the fact that we've got a mixed grid. We've got, you know, the champion-elect and the reigning world champion Max Verstappen starting down in 14th. We've got his closest title rival starting down in 15th, and we've got the sort of the B drivers, let's call them the B drivers, it's a bit unfair, but you've got Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez heading the pack, and behind them you've got the hungry wolf of Fernando Alonso going to be nipping at their heels going into turn 1. Slightly revised on the corner exits here at Spa. We've got a lot of gravel now. That could come into play. It's going to make for a really interesting race.
So whilst Max Verstappen leads the way, as we've said, by 80 points to Charles Leclerc, behind Leclerc there are a gaggle of gifted drivers. So Leclerc has 178 points. 5 points behind him is Sergio Perez. Then is George Russell on 158, Carlos Sainz 156, and Lewis Hamilton on 146 points. It is so close for that battle for second position, if not still for the lead. You never know what's around the corner. 242 points is the maximum on offer still, so for the season to come. Sam, if I say to you this statistic, the race has never been won from 15th, it has only been won once from 14th. How do you like those apples?
Is the question, when was it won from 14th on the grid?
Yeah, when was that, Jenny?
Oh, I thought you'd know.
No.
Really?
I don't know.
That's interesting.
Why is it interesting?
Well, because it's so you. I would have thought that you would have known, that's all.
No, I'm not an encyclopedia, but I mean, when was this race?
I've got no idea.
Okay, 95.
95.
Oh, Schumacher.
Did you just read my notes?
No, Schumacher won because he had a penalty or something. Why did Schumacher started a long way down the back of the field, came through the order. It was a wet, dry race. Him and Damon Hill side by side through Les Combes, lap after lap.
Okay.
I remember it. I didn't realise he started 14th on the grid.
Okay.
He started 16th on the grid. That's the furthest back it's ever been won.
That race obviously had changeable weather conditions. I think we're in for a full dry race today, but it's still going to be extremely exciting. Given the pace of what Max Verstappen has shown over the course of the weekend so far, that car with him in it will be rocketing up through the pack. How far he can make it though, Jenny, yeah, we'll find out in half an hour or so.
Maybe a bit longer than half an hour. Let's hope it
but
goes on.
in about half an hour, I'm thinking
I agree.
By about lap 10, we'll know whether he's going to be on course to win. I think that he needs a phenomenal start. He needs to clear 2 or 3 cars on the opening lap and then set about them and do 1 car every lap for the next 4 or 5 laps. If he can do that, get to the pit stop safely without any issues, he's got a chance.
Yeah, if he's 6th by lap 10, ahead of Albon and everyone, and just the Mercedes, the Alpine, but then he's got a shot, I think.
And maybe a safety car with about 10 laps to go.
So you've plotted out the race of how he could win.
Yes.
Who else do you think? Who else?
Honestly, if Verstappen's not winning, it's got to be between Sainz and Perez. I don't see anybody else really challenging the Ferrari and the Red Bull in terms of pace. I can't see it, even though I'd dearly love to see Lewis Hamilton get a win for the Mercedes team, or George Russell get in the mix. I'd love to see Fernando Alonso mix it with the front 3, but realistically, today's battle should be, and I think will be, between Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez, unless Max Verstappen can work his way up quickly.
And on that front, it's a really interesting one, because the Red Bull is the quicker car than the Ferrari around here. I think it was Ferrari yesterday that said it seems like the Red Bull is just literally made for this circuit. And so Perez should be able to beat Sainz. He's got more straight line speed, should be doable. But Perez has not been on form in the last few Grand Prix, and I think if he doesn't win this race and Sainz does, okay, he's got his new contract that he signed after Monaco, but it will be kind of fairly big question marks over Perez if he's not able to convert this into a race win today.
Is this you starting Ricciardo to Red Bull?
It wasn't, but let's go for it.
3 minutes until the start of this race. Let me run you through the grid. It is Sainz, Perez, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Albon, Ricciardo, Gasly, Stroll, Vettel making the top 10. Then it's Latifi, Magnussen, Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc, Ocon, Norris, Zhou, Schumacher, Tsunoda, who took an engine penalty this morning, will start from the pit lane. So that's your top 20. That's how it will set up. They have a choice of the soft, medium or hard to start on. Most, Sam, we're predicting will start on that medium tyre.
Unless you're out of position, and you might want to start on the soft tyre. I haven't seen what tyres people went to the grid on, Jenny. You presumably have got that information, or
nah, still
yet?
A bit early. They'll
still a bit early.
Yeah,
okay.
They'll
I reckon about
tyres.
now we'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as we're saying that, just as we predict, well, just as I thought, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc will be starting on the soft. Carlos Sainz, interestingly, from pole position, is the only other car except Bottas, Verstappen and Leclerc to start on the soft. Everybody else has gone for the medium. So expect Sainz to get a good start, get his head down and try and pull that gap to Perez. On the other hand, Verstappen and Leclerc, they've got to go forwards and go forwards early doors. That's why they're going to be starting on the soft tyre.
What an interesting decision that is from Ferrari, to start on the soft tyre with the man on pole position, because you get the launch off the line, but here launch schmaunch a little bit, because it's a tiny run to La Source,
200 metres.
Then you've got the run all the way up to Les Cotes. A really interesting decision that from Ferrari.
But we heard yesterday Ferrari made a mistake. We've heard countless times in the first part of this season Ferrari made a mistake. So is it a mistake for Ferrari, or have they done the right thing here? Someone missing from the grid. Pierre Gasly is in the garage for the AlphaTauri team. That's an interesting one. Gasly was due to start in P8. He's currently in the pits, so that means an empty grid slot there where his car should have been.
So effectively, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen are going to be starting instead of 14th and 15th. They might as well be 13th and 14th. One less car for both of those guys to clear in order to work their way up through the field.
Okay, less than a minute to go. Let's get you ready for the Belgian Grand Prix. It's Sam Burden alongside me, Jenny Gow. It is Jack Nicholls.
And the cars are just getting lowered down onto the asphalt now on the start-finish straight, just ahead of the hairpin right-hander at La Source. And it is Carlos Sainz who will be starting on pole position, with Sergio Perez alongside him in the Red Bull. The championship protagonists, if Leclerc can still be classed as one, is down in 15th position. Max Verstappen, the championship leader, is in 14th spot. for the Red Bull team. The second half of the Formula One season is about to get underway. Not mathematically, we've only got 9 to go, but after a long summer break, we're about to be going racing again, and at one of the most iconic circuits on the calendar in what could be, potentially, one of the last Belgian Grand Prix for a while, but we'll wait and see how that pans out over the coming months. It's 2 o'clock here on 5 Sports Extra, and this is the Belgian Grand Prix. So as the cars make their way around then on the grid, it is Carlos Sainz who is on pole position, Sergio Perez alongside him in the Red Bull. Fernando Alonso is third in the Alpine, with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in the Mercedes fourth and fifth. Alex Albon is sixth for Williams, seventh is Daniel Ricciardo. Pierre Gasly was due to be eighth, but he's going to be in the pits. Ninth on the grid will be Lance Stroll for the Aston Martin team, ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Latifi, Magnussen, Bottas, Verstappen and Leclerc, the top 15. Ocon, Norris, Zhou and Schumacher, the 19 drivers that will start on the grid. Tsunoda will start with his teammate Gasly from the pit lane. So the car's up towards Les Combes now, swinging through the right and the left and then down through Bruxelles. And I'm just so curious about that Ferrari decision to do the opposite basically of what everyone else is doing, other than those who really need to gain places in the opening laps.
So does that mean that Carlos Sainz is aiming immediately for a two-stopper at this race? I think that's what they would probably be leaning towards. Everybody else, I just don't know. I don't know whether Max Verstappen can make it on a one-stop, going from the soft to the medium. Time will tell.
Certainly will. The cars are now coming down through Pouhon on their formation lap. The fastest pit stop we've had this season is 2.19 seconds, and it's not the worst pit stop here in pit lane in terms of pit loss time, Jenny.
No, 19 seconds, so it's relatively quick if you want to dash in and dash out. Just a reminder, Alonso yesterday, wasn't it him that said that no one would start on the softs, or everyone would start on the softs, and he called out a mistake, and now all Sainz has started on the softs.
It's an interesting choice. If they do a one-stop and put him onto the hards, then we know that Ferrari have completely gone. But we'll see what happens.
Just a note on Pierre Gasly, an update on him. He had an electrical problem on the formation lap on the grid, so he's gone into the pits. They're just firing the car up now, so he should be ready to start from the pit lane behind his teammate.
Yeah, frustration for AlphaTauri. They are 8th in the championship at the moment, and with Gasly starting in 8th, they had a strong start, or a strong chance of scoring some world championship points. They're now coming down into the bus stop chicane and will line up on the grid ready to take the start. How far through the field can Verstappen and Leclerc come? They are now starting net 13th and 14th because of Gasly starting from the pit lane. The Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel will have a clear road ahead of him as he looks to attack Daniel Ricciardo. Also haven't mentioned Alex Albon in the Williams, starting in 6th position. It's also just popped up on the screens that Formula One can confirm the Belgian Grand Prix will be on the 2023 calendar. So there we go, there's some interesting news just as we get ready to start. So my little intro at the beginning is null and void, and that's some tremendous news that Spa will be on the calendar next year. But for now, the focus is on today's Grand Prix. The Haas driver of Mick Schumacher just coming through the final corner to line up at the back of the grid. Carlos Sainz is starting on pole position in the Ferrari. Sergio Perez is alongside him in the Red Bull. The championship protagonists, Verstappen and Leclerc, are 13th and 14th on the grid. The race begins now, and the Ferrari on the inside gets a pretty good start, and immediately Fernando Alonso's on the track, trying to get ahead of Sergio Perez, and he's managed to do it. George Russell has got ahead of Perez too, as has Lewis Hamilton. Sainz holds the lead. Perez has dropped way back through the field. Alonso is second. Hamilton is third. Russell is fourth. It's side by side between Vettel and Ricciardo as they come down towards Eau Rouge, one of the most fearsome corners in motorsport, and it is Ricciardo who just about comes out ahead. Max Max Verstappen is in the fight. He's trying to make a move on the Williams of Nicholas Latifi in the early stages. Sainz holds the lead as they come up into Les Combes. Hamilton's going for second place. Hamilton round the outside of Fernando Alonso, and they crash. Hamilton is off. He's been hit by Alonso. He's got damage, and suddenly Perez is back up into second place. Lance Stroll is on the gravel, and Max Verstappen has to take evasive action to try and avoid him. But Lewis Hamilton has damage after contact with Fernando Alonso. All that means that Sergio Perez is back up into second place after he got a bad start. Carlos Sainz holds the lead, and meanwhile it's Verstappen going ahead of Charles Leclerc. Those two are going wheel to wheel as they make their way up the order. Chaotic first half a lap here. Full commentary on Sports Extra. And Hamilton is slowing, and everybody's having to try and make their way around him because he's got a big amount of damage. There are sparks flying from underneath the car as he tries to tiptoe his way back. Alex Albon is involved in the fight as well. There's chaos as everyone tries to get around Hamilton. He's like a rolling roadblock at the moment, and Verstappen is involved as he tries to go side by side. He's almost going to get bulked here, and he does get bulked by Hamilton as he slows down almost to a halt now. Hamilton, he's out of the running. Sainz leads, Perez is second, Russell is third. Hamilton's radio.
So stop.
That's the end of the race then for Lewis Hamilton. Sainz leads, Perez second, Russell third, Alonso is still running in fourth position. Vettel is up into fifth place, Ricciardo sixth, Albon is seventh, eighth is Max Verstappen now. He's just got ahead of Lance Stroll, so already Verstappen is up into eighth spot. Leclerc is in 10th position at the moment. He hasn't managed to get ahead of Stroll just yet, but all of that has worked out perfectly for Carlos Sainz, who's got a 2-second lead up at the front. Busy stuff.
Super busy, an incredible start. What an exciting start to a Spa Grand Prix. Sainz has got away, and Perez somehow, after a terrible start, finds himself back in second place after Alonso and Hamilton tagging each other. He's got back past Russell, back into second.
Leclerc's on the grass coming out onto the Kemmel Straight as he tried to get around the outside of Lance Stroll. He's managed to pull it off and make the move and get a bit of ninth place, but I think that he wasn't left any room there by Stroll. When we get a look back, and a spin across the circuit, that is the Williams of Latifi, and he tags the Alfa Romeo, and the Alfa Romeo is spun into the gravel trap on the entry of Malmedy as well. Latifi lights up the rears and gets going, but Bottas is beached, Bottas is done, and I think we may well have a safety car here. It was Ocon who was off the circuit. Latifi took evasive action, then came back across and just tagged Valtteri Bottas. Might not have even tagged him, actually. It was so close, but Bottas was on the grass taking evasive action and ended up in the gravel. Hamilton has pulled to the side of the road with the smoke coming from the rear of his Mercedes, and the safety car is deployed on lap 2 of 44.
Happy birthday, Bottas.
Yeah.
33 today, and he'll take no further part in this race, unfortunately, after 2 laps. Not the way he would have planned for his birthday.
Not at all. And if you can remember yesterday, Sebastian Vettel didn't make it out of Q1 and was furious.
Yeah.
He now finds himself in 5th place in the Grand Prix after the opening lap. How your fortunes can change.
So Valtteri Bottas beached in the gravel on the entrance to Malmedy. Looks as though Latifi managed to get going again. Hamilton has pulled over to the side of the circuit, and Bottas is now just unplugging himself from the car and getting going again. We're going to have a look back at some of the key moments from the beginning of that Grand Prix, and it was a slow start from Perez as well. So Alonso got him straight away, Russell followed to the inside, Hamilton went to the outside, and Perez found himself down in 5th place instantly.
Absolutely. So it's kind of negated now because he's back in second, but that was a really poor getaway from Sergio Perez. He's really lucked into the fact that Fernando and Alonso have come together. Now they're going down the Kemmel Straight. You see Fernando Alonso in second place, Lewis Hamilton gaining all the time in the slipstream, will pop out to the outside, try and do the outside move, outbrake Fernando Alonso, but then it's a case of 2 into 1, doesn't go. Lewis Hamilton's car went right up in the air and obviously got a lot of damage.
Perez has actually got Russell on the straight. We're just having a look back. Safety car still deployed here. It got more dramatic later on in the lap because there was a collision between Nicholas Latifi and Valtteri Bottas. Bottas beached in the gravel, so he's out of the race, and Hamilton broke down, and he's out of the Grand Prix too, so the safety car is deployed here at the moment, neutralising the race. Sainz still leads, Perez is second. I don't think Hamilton left Alonso enough room there. You can do side-by-side at Les Combes.
Yeah, look, Fernando can't be more to the inside, and Lewis has cut across slightly. It's a difficult one. They're both world-class drivers, but at the same time, I just don't think there was enough room.
I think that, you, as I say, you can go side-by-side through Les Combes, but I don't think Hamilton's left him enough room. I'm happy, personally. I'm interested in your thought. If they say that racing incident, first lap, wheel to wheel, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I'm not too dissatisfied with that. Or do you think you would like to see a penalty for Hamilton? Not would like to see, but you know what I'm saying. His Bottas is ready.
I'm pissed. I'm stuck. I had to avoid this collision, so...
Yeah, nothing Bottas could do, really, with cars spinning all over the place in front of him. Jenny?
Fernando Alonso on the radio said, "What an idiot, closing the door from the outside. We had a mega start, but this guy only knows how to start and finish first." I think he's talking about Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think we saw enough people go side by side through Les Combes that it is a doable thing. Although, having said that, Vettel forced his teammate Stroll into the gravel a little bit. Safety car is still deployed. Sainz is leading the Grand Prix. Perez is second. Here's Charles Leclerc's radio.
I think there's some smoke from the front right.
Leclerc is coming into the pits then. A new set of medium tyres. He says he thinks there's a bit of smoke coming from the front right, which I presume would be bodywork damage and something rubbing on the front right. We'll see what Ferrari do now he comes into the pits. He had made good progress up into ninth position, but into the pits now comes Charles Leclerc. Swings it in, and if they just replace the tyres, then I don't really know what they've achieved. And that is what they have done. So... And he pulls out now, and there's still smoke coming, isn't there? So there must be some damage from the front wing or something that is rubbing on the tyre. We'll keep an eye on that one. Also in is Nicholas Latifi, lap 4 of 44. What this does do is help Verstappen and Sainz, who are on the soft tyre, because they're doing less laps at full racing speed. But yeah, if it is bodywork damage on Leclerc's car that's causing the smoke, then they won't really have fixed that by just putting a new set of tyres on. But we'll wait and see. Still behind the safety car.
Sometimes they can get some tear off or some piece of debris stuck within the brake ducts, and that can really cause it to burst a light, catches fire, and then they just need to remove that piece, and it sometimes just goes out. If that's something that's happened, it's interfered with the brake duct, then that's a possibility. We'll have to keep an eye out.
So there was a tear off inside the front right brake cooling. We removed it. Everything should be okay now.
Wow. Pay rise for Jenny Gal.
Jenny's doing a dance, everybody, in the commentary booth.
Yeah, remarkable. Lap 4 of 44, and safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap, and Sainz will be leading the Grand Prix. Perez will be behind him. Russell will be third. Fourth is Alonso. Fifth is Vettel. Sixth is Ricciardo. Seventh, Albon. Eighth, Verstappen. Ninth, Stroll. 10th, Magnussen. Ocon, Norris, Joe, Schumacher and Tsunoda the top 15. Gasly, Leclerc, Latifi, the 18 drivers. Bottas and Hamilton out of the Grand Prix.
So Latifi came in on that fourth lap, changed onto the medium tyre, so he's locked into at least a 2-stop because he started on the medium. Leclerc switched from the soft to the medium. Let's see how these softs last in this warmer temperature.
Yeah, but Leclerc will be on a 2-stop anyway, because he won't be able to make the mediums last the full race distance. Carlos Sainz then has got to do it all again. He thought, happy days, he had a 2-second lead.
Oh, we agree. 1 stop from now, no?
We'll come back to you on that. I confirm you. Yes.
So
Didn't
that's
very
Leclerc
sure,
saying, yeah, exactly, saying, right, 1 stop from now, yeah? And the team saying, Yeah. Right, Sainz, when's he going to... He's going quite late here, Carlos Sainz. He's going to be under a lot of pressure. He's coming down into the bus stop chicane, and Perez is going to be right with him when the restart goes. There he goes. He floors the throttle now, and then locks up, coming into the bus stop. Big error from Carlos Sainz, and then backs off, and then gets going again. That's not a cool restart, I don't think. Once you go, you have to go, and I think Sainz backed off, and Russell is now attacking Sergio Perez, coming into La Source. Russell to the outside. Perez now locks up. Russell's going to get a good drive out of the corner. He's so close to the back of the Red Bull, he might be able to get him into second position here, heading down towards Eau Rouge. Sainz has got a good advantage after that restart, but Russell is going to be all over the back of the Red Bull as they come up into Les Combes. How defensive is he going to go? Also, Alonso's on the attack. Alonso is going quicker than both of them. Russell tries to squeeze him, and Alonso is going to get up into third place, is he? He's on the outside. Russell is later on the brakes and manages to keep third position. But Sainz leads the Grand Prix. Perez is second. Russell is third. Alonso is fourth. Vettel is fifth. Ricciardo is sixth. Albon, Verstappen, Stroll and Magnussen the top 10. But that restart from Sainz, he went, made a mistake, and then sort of kind of slowed everyone down again.
Well, he made the mistake at the first apex of the bus stop chicane at the end of the lap, which meant then he had to go super slow in a very tight radius in the final part of the corner, which is why it looked like he was backing everybody up. I don't think it was deliberate. I think it was simply a mistake in the first part of the corner.
Okay, Verstappen has also got ahead of Alex Albon and is up into 7th position now. He's right on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, so at the moment Max Verstappen is about 2 seconds off the lead of the Grand Prix, pretty much. A little bit more than that, but not much more. The sound you can hear is the Red Bull powered car coming through the right-hander at Stabilo, and now the flat-out blast back towards the bus stop chicane. He's closing in on Daniel Ricciardo. He might be close enough for a look. They're about to come through the flat-out left-hander of Blanchimont and approach the chicane at 190 miles an hour. Does Verstappen fancy it? You bet he does. To the inside on the soft tyres, and Verstappen is now up into 6th position. Lovely little slide in between the two apexes, and he's already on the back of Sebastian Vettel as they come over the line. Lap 6 of 44 now. Sainz leading, Perez second, Russell third, Alonso fourth, Vettel's fifth. Verstappen is up into 6th place. Jenny Gow. Didn't
you say by lap 10 he needed to be around 6th, 7th? So he's done it within 6 laps as Lewis Hamilton makes the sorry trudge back to the pit lane all by his own. It looks a really dejected and forlorn figure there, doesn't it?
Carlos Sainz sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Bottas and Hamilton, the two Mercedes drivers from last year, the two retirees from this race. Albon is on the attack, trying to get ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, and Albon is getting ahead of Daniel Ricciardo into Les Combes. Good move from the Williams driver to get ahead of the McLaren man, and that is now 7th place for Alex Albon, and he's certainly holding his own in that midfield pack.
Driving very nicely so far, Jack. The interesting thing at that restart for me was the fact that the Mercedes, the factory Mercedes car of George Russell, simply didn't have the pace going down the Kemmel Straight to try and attack Sergio Perez. In fact, it was Alonso on the attack on him, so that's something to look out for. Can Alonso get the slipstream when DRS is activated on George Russell going up to Les Combes?
Because Russell couldn't have been closer to Perez.
I thought, or was he too close? I thought that if any move was going to happen, it was going to be Russell on Perez, but actually it was Alonso on Russell. As we see a replay of Alexander Albon, very nice move down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo.
Sainz leading the Grand Prix. 2nd place is Sergio Perez. 3rd is George Russell at the moment in the Mercedes. Here comes Verstappen again. He's on the back of Sebastian Vettel as they come through Blanchimont down towards the bus stop. This is where Verstappen dispatched Ricciardo, and it is also where Verstappen dispatches Sebastian Vettel. Up into 5th place now, Max Verstappen. His next target is Fernando Alonso in 4th place, lap 7 of 44. Sainz's lead is 1.7 seconds. It's then 3.7 seconds back to Russell. DRS is now enabled. It's 5.3 seconds to Alonso. Max Verstappen is 6 seconds off the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix on lap 7.
Is it even worth saying at this point that he did start on the soft tyre? So he's got the same strategy as Sainz, who's leading this race. We shall see whether it pays out for him, whether he'll have to stop an extra stop than everybody else who started on those medium tyres.
And Alonso is now dispensed with easy peasy because of the straight line speed in the Red Bull and the DRS, and now Verstappen is up into 4th spot. Sainz leading, Perez 2nd, Russell 3rd, Verstappen 4th. No further action on the Alonso-Hamilton collision on the opening lap. Alonso is still going. Here's Sainz's radio.
We are more for plan B. We are more for plan B, and we are monitor the soft behavior.
Sainz being told plan B is what they're looking at the moment at Ferrari. But will they end on plan B?
Yeah, I think that they would have had different plans, Jack, on where Max Verstappen would be after the early phase of the race. If he's stuck behind people, I think they could have potentially quite easily done a two-stopper. Now plan B, is it we've got to eke these softs out, we've got to try and do a one-stopper if we want to win this race?
Speaking to engineers before this race, they said what was key is dropping into a space when you come back onto the track with those new tyres, especially if you go onto the hard tyre. They take an age to try and warm up, even though we've got much hotter track temperatures today. So if you're in a really tight battle with someone and you want to come in, going onto that hard tyre and going back out into a really big dogfight could mean that you lose a lot of momentum.
I can't see anybody using the hard, Jenny. It was such a bad tyre when we saw it in use on Friday. Nobody could get it to work. The fronts just were dead. The Mercedes especially looked woeful on the hard. So for me, this is a race where the softs and the mediums are the compounds that people will use.
Problem is, Fernando Alonso says the softs are rubbish. So he doesn't want to be on them at all.
No, but I mean, the problem is the hard is so slow that it's too easy to lock the fronts. You'll be too much of a sitting duck compared to people on the mediums.
Verstappen is getting George Russell. Verstappen is at the inside of Russell and into third place now. 4.2 seconds off race leader Carlos Sainz. Verstappen is flying through the field and is up into the top three. Sainz leads, Perez second. Verstappen is third, and he's also closed in 2 seconds on Carlos Sainz. Over the last, lap? 2 laps on that last lap. Verstappen did a 51.9, which was a second quicker than Carlos Sainz.
But is that what plan B is? Is plan B now look after the soft tyres? We need to eke them out to do the one-stop, whereas Max is all guns blazing, going for it, trying to get back towards the race lead.
Yeah, could well be. So Sainz leading, Perez second, Verstappen third, Russell fourth, Alonso fifth, Vettel, Albon, Ricciardo, Stroll and Ocon the top 10, Magnussen, Norris, Zhou, Tsunoda and Gasly the top 15. Leclerc is right behind Gasly. Hey, sends it into pit path, and does that come off? Yes, it does. So not seen many Formula One cars overtaking into pit path. Not seen many cars in any series really overtaking into pit path, but Leclerc pulls it off and he's now been to 15th place. His next target is Yuki Tsunoda, which he may be able to get at the bus stop, because he is right behind the Japanese driver in the AlphaTauri now, and he will maybe even go to the outside at Blanchimont here. Tsunoda covers the inside and they go wheel to wheel around the left-hander, and Gasly has been passed, and now Tsunoda has been passed by Leclerc up the inside into the bus stop. High degradation is the message from Sainz to the team on the radio there, so that's not ideal news. Lap 9 of 44. Sainz leading. Carlos Sainz is leading here. Sergio Perez is in second, 1.1 seconds back, but Max Verstappen, having started in 14th on the grid, is already up into third place. He has dispatched Ricciardo, Albon, Vettel, Alonso, Russell, and now his next target is going to be his teammate as he looks to close in on Carlos Sainz for the race win. Lap 9 of 44. Norris is now getting ahead of Kevin Magnussen coming into Les Combes as well. So Lando Norris up into 11th position, Magnussen down to 12th, 13th is Zhou, then 14th is Charles Leclerc. Verstappen on that last lap did a 52.6, which was a second and a half quicker than Carlos Sainz. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, if you're going to try and do a one-stop starting on that soft tyre, you're looking to come into the pit lane at around lap 16 to 22 to go onto the hard. Pirelli didn't think it was possible to go soft-medium to make this race work, and I kind of feel like that's the right direction. But if degradation higher on those soft tyres than expected, what are they going to do? Soft, medium. Medium is a potential if they've got the tyres there to do it.
Yeah, and actually the Carlos Sainz's tyres look horrible.
Yeah, they don't look particularly good at the front, do they? They look very, very old and worn already.
And at the back.
And the back, yeah. The inside shoulder is working extremely hard.
So out over the start-finish straight comes Carlos Sainz, and in fact he's been caught well, what were the lap times this time through? No, he gained 0.2 on Perez. Verstappen is now being told high degradation. He is also on the soft tyres, so Sainz's tyres are 2 laps older than Verstappen's, but they're pretty much in the same window. On lap 10 of 44, Verstappen is 1.2 seconds behind Sergio Perez. How swiftly will Perez move out of the way for Max Verstappen in this second place fight currently? Sainz leading, Perez second, Verstappen third, just 2.5 seconds separating the top 3 at the moment. Russell is holding on to that 4th place fairly comfortably. He is 4 seconds ahead of Alonso. Alonso is less than a second ahead of Sebastian Vettel, so that's quite a nice fight going on there. Leclerc is passing Magnussen for 12th place, the Ferrari driver to the inside on the Kemmel Straight coming up to Les Combes, and he makes the move and is now up into that 12th spot. But the Alonso-Vettel fight is quite close. Albon is only just holding on ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. There's only 0.4 of a second between them, and Stroll is only about half a second further back. So the queue from Albon back to Ocon, 7th through to 10th, is very close indeed. Lap 10 of 44, so we're almost at a quarter race distance at the end of this lap.
Just looking at those tyres, obviously Sainz's tyres are older because he started on the used set of tyres, didn't he? But I'm just thinking when it comes out and rubs out, Verstappen's having to work those tyres so hard because he's having to get through traffic. He's made great lengths to get himself 10 places above where he started.
And we see degradation higher than expected. That's for everybody.
That's Leclerc being told degradation for everybody out there is higher than expected. Verstappen is really close to the back of Perez now as they come through the bus stop chicane and down towards La Source again into the hairpin right-hander, and maybe we will see a switching of positions this time around. There's just 0.6 between Perez and Verstappen. In fact, it might not even need to be a orchestrated thing here, because Verstappen will have the DRS as they come down towards Eau Rouge this time.
You can see already, Jack, the soft rear tyres of both Sainz and Verstappen, that they're squirming around on exits now, struggling to find traction. The gap between Sainz and Verstappen in terms of lap time is starting to be similar-ish now. Verstappen doesn't quite have the advantage that he did before. He's not taking seconds out of Sainz. It's now hundredths and maybe a tenth or two a lap. So it's getting closer and closer.
No team orders there between Perez and Verstappen. Perez is still in second place. Verstappen looked a little to the inside coming into Les Combes, but was just a little bit too far back at the moment. They are on different tyre strategies too, with Perez on the mediums, Sainz in the lead on the softs, Verstappen in third on the softs. And what Jenny was talking about earlier about the gap, getting the gap that you want to pit in, is going to be really tricky for Sainz and Verstappen, because everybody else is on the medium, so they'll be in theory wanting to go longer than those two. And if they were to pit now, Carlos Sainz, he would come out in about 9th, 10th place.
Yeah, we can take a good look at Alex Albon in the Williams. He's just pitted. He started on the mediums.
He's losing a silly amount of time now.
Well, that's Verstappen saying we're losing a silly amount of time now to Carlos Sainz because they're not switching the Red Bull drivers. That is quite an early pit stop for Alex Albon.
He started on the mediums, not the softs as well. Came in on lap 11 and he switched onto the hard tyres. So all eyes will be on Albon's tyres. How do they switch on? How will they last in this?
And into the pits comes Sainz from the lead. Carlos Sainz pits from the race lead. The Ferrari ready with a new set of medium tyres. So Perez inherits the lead of the Grand Prix, and surely that will become Max Verstappen's lead in a couple of moments' time. Lap 12 of 44, they're starting. The pit stop for Ferrari is decent as Sainz leaves the pit lane. It's 2.4 seconds, so actually it's a pretty good stop from Ferrari. But now Verstappen is fighting for the lead of the race with his teammate. Up through Eau Rouge now. Verstappen is really close to the back of Perez. He'll get the DRS and he will surely make the overtake. He started down in 14th on the grid, but now Verstappen goes to the inside of the Red Bull and takes the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. Verstappen hits the front, Perez second, Russell third, Vettel fourth, Ricciardo fifth. Sainz comes out in 6th place then. So did they do enough? Did they manage to find a gap for him to come out ahead of Stroll? He's right in the mix. He's 2/10 behind Ricciardo here, and he's losing time to Ricciardo. They haven't pulled this off, Ferrari. They must have thought they could have got him out. Once Albon pitted, they must have thought they could get him out in front of the Ricciardo-Stroll-Ocon fight, but it hasn't turned out that way. He's in the mix now, and he's losing loads of time.
Oh, and he'll be held up terribly on this lap by Daniel Ricciardo in the second sector. There's no chance of him overtaking, surely, down into Pouan. And he's just going to hemorrhage lap time. Is he going to do it?
He goes for it. Wow.
Good move.
Sainz gets stuck into the inside at Pouan, and he knows that there is no time to mess around here. What will the Red Bulls do? Surely Perez now has to go long. Does Verstappen try and cover, or does he try and stay out as well? Because his pace was good, but will it be as good as Sainz is on these new medium tyres?
Well, Sainz has now got to have the next a lap and a half that is absolutely sublime. He's got to pull probably 2 seconds on what Verstappen can do and just hope that Verstappen stays out there and loses too much time.
Here come the Red Bulls out across the line through the bus stop, and they do both stay out. So Verstappen stays out, 1.6 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez in second place. Russell is third. McLaren are now running out into the pit lane. They've got a set of hard tyres ready, and that is going to be for Daniel Ricciardo. Alpine pit as well with Esteban Ocon. So Ricciardo pits, Ocon pits. Fernando Alonso's on his outlap, so we'll see where he emerges, and we'll also see where these drivers emerge compared to Alex Albon, because Ricciardo was right behind Albon when they came into the pits, when Albon was the first of the pit stoppers. He went onto the hard tyres, so they're on the same strategy, and Albon is going to stay ahead of Daniel Ricciardo here. So the undercut has worked for Albon, and he's going to grow his advantage, to be honest, a little over Daniel Ricciardo. Not a huge amount, but enough for it to be notable. So lap 13 of 44, Verstappen leads 2 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, 3.4 seconds ahead of George Russell. We're just having a look at Fernando Alonso, who has got past Nicholas Latifi, and Alonso pitted quite early, and as a result ended up in quite a bit of traffic towards the back of the field. So it hasn't really worked out for Alonso. Where's he now compared to the drivers that were around him? He is running in 11th place, so he's behind all those other cars that he was fighting with, i.e. No, he's ahead of Albon, isn't he? No, he's still ahead of Albon, I apologise. So Alonso is still ahead of Albon and Ricciardo and Ocon and the like.
Jack, look at the pace advantage that Verstappen has got over Perez. I mean, this is a soft tyre that was supposed to be degrading by now. Perez should be coming back at Verstappen. Instead, in 1 lap, or a lap and a half, Max Verstappen's pulled 2.8, nearly 3 seconds on his teammate. I mean, there's a case of somebody driving with confidence and being on top of their game, and somebody not quite being at one with the car.
Yeah, across the line this time, and it was 1.5 seconds the advantage that Verstappen was quicker than Sergio Perez on that 1 lap alone. George Russell is in the pits from third place. New set of medium tyres for George Russell, so they are locking into a 2-stop here, Mercedes. They will definitely be doing a 2-stop strategy as Russell makes his way out of the pits. Sainz has got ahead of Sebastian Vettel and is now up into third place, so the next thing to keep an eye on is going to be those lap times, or the delta between Verstappen in the lead and Sainz in third, which is currently at 15 seconds. So if Verstappen were to pit now, Sainz would come out ahead, because although Verstappen's going quickly, Sainz is going 0.6 of a second a lap quicker. So can Verstappen stay out long enough to get that overall enough of an offset that his tyres are going to be fresher, or is there nothing Sainz and Ferrari can do this afternoon? Because, well, Verstappen's just rapid.
Yeah, that's the thing. Verstappen is rapid. Verstappen radio.
Yeah, just want to extend a little bit.
Understood, Max. Keep it there.
And that's what Verstappen's saying. I just want to extend it a little bit so I have a bit of a tyre advantage once I do make my pit stop.
Exactly what they're looking at now. You know, he's got such a pace advantage that he can continue on this set of softs that are now fairly second-hand. That will pay dividends in the last 8 to 10 laps of the race, Jack.
That 14 of 44. Verstappen leading, he is yet to stop. Perez second, has yet to stop. Third is Carlos Sainz, he has stopped. Vettel in fourth has not. Leclerc in fifth has not. And then it is Stroll in sixth, Russell seventh, Zhou eighth, ninth for Tsunoda, 10th for Alonso. Perez is going to pit at the end of this lap on the medium tyres.
Isn't that amazing? Perez pits ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen started on the softs, Perez started on the mediums, and yet Verstappen is able to make these softs just go on and on as if they were the medium.
Perez is the tyre whisperer. Into the pits he comes, and it is a new set of mediums for Perez, so that is definitely a 2-stopper for Sergio Perez as well. Sainz gets up into second place then. He's going to come out ahead of Sergio Perez. Still is he? Yes, by quite a way, to be honest, as he comes down the hill. Perez is just making his way out now, and he only comes out just ahead of George Russell in all of this. Maybe a couple of seconds ahead of George Russell, but he is on newer tyres that will see him go longer into the Grand Prix. Leclerc is right behind Sergio Perez, actually, as they come up the hill, and Leclerc might fancy a little fight here. Opens the DRS, but the straight line speed in that Red Bull is such that it'll be tough for the Ferrari to do anything about it, especially on his old tyres. And oh, he gets squeezed there, Charles Leclerc, by Sergio Perez. It was difficult to tell how far alongside Leclerc was in actual fact.
That looked a little bit too much from Sergio there, but both cars have made it round. It was aggressive. I thought that Charles Leclerc needed to get past Sergio then. Sergio's on an interesting strategy now. He's obviously gone medium, Science Radio.
We are considering plan D for Delta. Verstappen is 14 in front, and we are monitoring if the deck is thermal only, looks thermal.
So Sainz is being told that we're now looking at plan D for Delta, and so they're saying that the Verstappen's tyre deg, they think it's only thermal, i.e. it's sort of overheating, but it's not actually, you can still keep the pace going with it.
Yeah, when they say thermal, it's just the exterior of the tyre overheating, as we see Max Verstappen now diving into the pits for his first pit stop. Presumably this will be onto a set of mediums.
Into the pit lane then comes the race leader, his first stop. Where's he going to emerge? It'll probably be in second position. It is a set of mediums for Max Verstappen, and it's a reasonable enough stop, 2.8 seconds, not as rapid as Red Bull have managed in the past, but Sainz now retakes the lead of the Grand Prix. He's on a set of medium tyres. He is followed by Max Verstappen, who is also on a set of medium tyres. Sergio Perez is third, also on a set of medium tyres, but Perez has to stop again. Russell has now caught the back of Leclerc. Leclerc needs to stop again as well. Carlos Sainz is leading the race here because Max Verstappen managed to get to the front, then he's made his pit stop, and he is now chasing down Sainz. He's 5 seconds behind the Ferrari driver. He started down in 14th place, he's climbed his way up the order, and it'll be Sainz versus Verstappen for the race win in the next hour or so here on Sports Extra. Down through Bruxelles comes George Russell, having now got ahead of Charles Leclerc, so Russell into 4th, Leclerc 5th. Alonso 6th, Tsunoda is 7th, having yet to pit. Albon is 8th, having pitted. And we are, it was a Leclerc, just getting a look at the onboard replay of Leclerc, and it was right on the limit. The squeeze from Perez was right on the limit. Here's Leclerc's radio.
Well, he didn't do the first place there, and we touched, so...
Understood.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'd be on the radio saying exactly the same thing, Jack, to be honest, in maybe worse language than that. I think he was fairly calm.
Sound bird.
Yeah, sorry, but that's just the truth. If you've heard my radio in Formula E, then it's colourful. The reason why Charles Leclerc is struggling right now is because, remember, he pitted on lap 2 of the race because they saw that there was a tear-off that was stuck in the brake duct, so he's radio, Carlos Sainz.
It's starting to recover a bit of grip.
Okay, that's good.
He's started to recover a bit of grip, that's good. He's leading, he's got a reasonable lead from Max Verstappen. Going back to Charles Leclerc, he's almost really out of sync, isn't he? He's done a pit stop, but it's like he's going to be doing his second very, very soon. He looks like he's dropping a lot of pace.
Yeah, well, he said on the radio, didn't he? We're only doing one more from here on. Is that correct? And that was on lap, must have been 4 or 5 when the race got going again. So even that feels like a bit of a stretch for Leclerc.
Look at how quickly Russell's pulled away.
And we are going plan D, and Hart is 2/10 faster than expected. Degradation is still high.
So Leclerc sounds like he'll come into the pits and put a set of hard tyres on as Sebastian Vettel gets ahead of Alex Albon. Vettel now up into 8th place, Albon down to 9th.
And Vettel a good one to watch, actually. He went onto those hard tyres and doing really well on them. The others that went onto the hard tyre was Albon, Ocon, Ricciardo, Gasly, Norris, Magnussen and Schumacher and Latifi, who's already stopped twice. So the hard tyre definitely performing better than expected out there.
I think that's because, Jenny, it's just that little bit hotter out there today, which is just switching them on. If it's too cold, you can't switch the tyre on and you tend to slide around a little bit. So with the higher temperatures, the hard tyre has come into a bit of a window, which we didn't really expect to see.
Some great racing in the midfield. Schumacher's just passed Latifi going into Eau Rouge. Latifi was also in a fight with Ocon and Ricciardo, and I think that must have been before he made his second pit stop, Nicholas Latifi, which he did on the last lap. So there was a great fight between them coming up the Kemmel Straight, but Verstappen has now caught the back of Carlos Sainz. There's just half a second between them, both on the medium tyre, and whilst it looked as though it was reasonable pace for Sainz, Verstappen flying on that last lap, 2.4 seconds quicker in one lap than Carlos Sainz. And here now comes the move for the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. Sainz covers the inside, Verstappen goes to the outside in the Red Bull, and such is the straight line speed advantage that he breezes past and takes the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. Lap 18 of 44, Verstappen hits the front, Sainz is down to second, Perez is in third spot, and that is remarkable for Max Verstappen.
He's a guy that's driving on the top of his game. I mean, let's have a look at this move again. He sets him up. He goes sort of fishing at the back of Carlos Sainz's rear end there and gets the DRS toe. And it's a comfortable move, isn't it, into Lecom.
So Max Verstappen, who has been so dominant all weekend, is now in the lead of the race, 1.3 seconds already ahead of Carlos Sainz. The battle for second between Sainz and Perez will be very interesting indeed. Russell in fourth place, Leclerc fifth, Alonso sixth, Tsunoda seventh, eighth is Vettel, ninth is Albon, 10th is Ocon, and then you've got Ricciardo, Gasly, Stroll, Norris and Joe, the top 15, Magnussen, Schumacher and Latifi, the 18 drivers, Bottas and Hamilton out of the Grand Prix. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda's an interesting one. Started from the pit lane because he took a new engine this morning. He's on the hard tyre, which he started on, so still hasn't made a stop. Currently running in 7th. So I think a lot of the teams will be watching his tyres, trying to work out how long they last, when they start dropping off in performance. But I just wonder, Verstappen, could he have gone onto the hard tyre and made it last the entire race? Because they seem to be getting more out of it than expected.
With the pace that he's showing right now,
matter.
It doesn't matter. He can do another stop. Yeah. You know, when he wants to, he can be a good second a lap quicker than anybody at the moment, which is remarkable, really. Absolutely remarkable.
Lap 19 of 44. Albon, Tsunoda's just pitted, so Albon is up to 8th. Max Verstappen has now taken the lead of the race properly. He pitted, he came out behind Carlos Sainz, but he closed in on the Ferrari driver, overtook him coming into Les Combes, and now Verstappen leads the way on lap 19 of 44 as we approach half race distance. Sainz is second, Perez is third, Charles Leclerc is running in 5th spot. Lap 19 of 44, Robert says on hashtag BBC F1, and that is the Grand Prix over. 18 more laps than last year at least. So yeah, very true. I think I'm enjoying this race. Lap 19 of 44, Verstappen leading. Masterful drive through the field. Sainz in second place, Perez third, Russell fourth, Leclerc fifth, Alonso, Vettel, Albon, Ocon and Ricciardo are the top 10. That is Sam Bird alongside myself, Jack Nichols and Jenny Gow.
Cannot believe just how much conversation goes on with some of the drivers and their engineers. Leclerc just having a huge amount of dialogue with the Ferrari pit wall, trying to decide what to do next. Are they going to put him onto the mediums? Are they going to pit him, put him onto the hard tyres? All of this conversation going on whilst driving around one of the hardest, most spectacular tracks in the world, at the fastest you can do in almost any car. It's crazy that your brain can actually work that way.
A lot of straights here, it's easy.
Us drivers, we're not...
I really want to hear you try it, Jack, now.
You know, we are thinking about the driving, but it's quite subconscious at the same time. We dedicate a certain amount of our brain capacity to thinking about the strategy, and therefore speaking on the radio about these kind of things. We're always thinking about what we can do. Charles Leclerc
So
radio.
you are doing a good job on tires. We are happy to continue like this. Can you do 5 more laps? Question?
Yes.
Copy?
There we go. Charles Leclerc's going to do 5 more laps.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Jack, if you jumped in a race car, you would be using 100% of your brain power to be thinking about the driving aspect. We're probably using 50, 55% thinking about the racing. The rest of it is on other things, sort of strategy, what we need to do with the car in front, the car behind. If you're Robin Freins, you're thinking about what's for dinner. You know, all of these things we're capable of thinking of as a professional racing driver.
And the comparison I would draw is kind of with football, right? A footballer doesn't think specifically about kicking the ball itself. They're thinking, where do I need to be? What tactically am I meant to be doing? What position do I need to be in? Where's my teammates around me? They're not thinking, how do I kick the ball to that person?
Exactly. So you've nailed it.
Thank you. Lap 20 of 44. Sainz is now trying to fight for second place because Sergio Perez is right behind him now. Red Bull looking for a 1-2 because Verstappen is pulling away in the lead of the Grand Prix. He's 5.5 seconds ahead of Sainz, but I think the fight between Sainz and Perez could be a lot of fun. They have had a 1-2 this season. Red Bull in Imola, in Spain, in Baku, but none since Baku. That's what Perez is trying to change right now as they come up Eau Rouge and up Raidillon, and this is going to be a good opportunity for Perez in the Red Bull. Closes in on Sainz. He's got the DRS, he's got the superior straight line speed, he's also got the outside line into Les Combes, and now he's got second place. Sergio Perez ahead of Carlos Sainz, and they just have no answer for Red Bull this afternoon, Ferrari, do they? I think this is one of those, kind of like Miami earlier this year, where there is no real error coming from Ferrari. They just do not have the pace that Red Bull have this afternoon. Red Bull weekend.
Red Bull have the aerodynamic advantage in the corners, but also the straight line speed advantage in Sector 1 and Sector 3. Not
to dampen the parade already, but this is without their new monocoque, which they're bringing in, which is meant to be lightened, so it gives them even more opportunity to win races.
Great move from Lance Stroll, going around the outside of Pierre Gasly up at Les Combes. That was lovely stuff from Stroll. Got up into 11th position. Gasly down into 12th place. He has made his one and only pit stop in this race, Pierre Gasly, having started from the pit lane, so he's made good progress. Lando Norris hasn't made much progress through the field, and Ricciardo has slipped back a little, which is a bit of a disappointment for the McLaren team, where Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon are running 6th and 8th respectively for the Alpine cars. Also Sebastian Vettel's doing a good job in 7th place for Aston Martin. He is not dropping back at all and is 3.5 seconds ahead of Esteban Ocon at the moment. That last lap Ocon was 0.4 of a second quicker, so we'll keep an eye on that gap as it continues to change. Verstappen leading, Perez is second, Sainz is third, Russell is fourth in a very lonely fourth place, Leclerc is fifth, Alonso is sixth, Vettel is seventh, eighth is Ocon, ninth is Albon, 10th is Daniel Ricciardo, and Ricciardo is right on the back of Albon as they come up towards the chicane. But that straight line speed in the Williams, we saw it throughout the weekend with continually Albon and Latifi setting fastest first sectors, and Ricciardo's really struggling to make any grounds on Albon. Albon got ahead of him in the early stages of the Grand Prix, and Ricciardo just can't fight back.
I think Ricciardo's hanging on in the toe more than anything else, really. The traction on the McLaren looks quite weak at this stage of the race. Going back to what Jenny just said, so there's an upgrade package from Red Bull that will create a lighter monocoque.
Yes.
That's worrying.
Isn't it just? I know a lot of the teams are looking at it, trying to do the same thing. They all reckon if they lose weight, they can gain speed. It's a simple equation. But yeah, that's. I wondered if they'd put it in this weekend, but no, sadly not. Still to come.
Half race distance now as we are on lap 22 of 44 in the Belgian Grand Prix here on 5 Sports Extra. Verstappen is leading, having started in 14th and carved his way through the field and got up into the lead of the race. 7.3 seconds ahead now of Sergio Perez. This is such a... Verstappen Yeah, this is such a great. This is going to go down as an iconic Verstappen drive, I think, because I often think that with Verstappen he wins well and he does well, but I didn't feel there were many times where he just completely obliterated everybody. When you think of Hamilton, and obviously Hamilton's been in F1 a lot longer, but you think of the days of, you know, Silverstone in 2008 and races like that where Hamilton just destroyed the field. And we've had it with Leclerc at times, but this race from Verstappen and this weekend from Verstappen has just
I think
been
he's been
phenomenal.
fairly dominant at places like Mexico before as well, Jack. There's been times where he has romped home. But this one, I think, is more special. We're saying he's won. He hasn't won yet. There's still 21 laps to go in the race, and anything can happen in Formula One. But the rate at which he's pulled away and where he's come from... what I would have liked to have seen, though, a little bit is some of those moves. Clearly, people were thinking, well, Verstappen's not really in my race. He's going to be past me. But nobody put up a massive defence or a massive fight. It was put the nose on the inside and through he went. He didn't lose any time overtaking anybody. It was just through and on to the next one and on to the next one.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal confidence in the car as well, Max Verstappen. Albon is still holding on ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in their fight over 9th and 10th places. Zhou has now caught the back of Lando Norris, and there's just half a second between them. Norris is on the hard tyres, Zhou is on the mediums. They're battling over 12th place, but that's sort of another indication of that strange lack of progress from McLaren, because Norris was, what, third quickest in free practice 3 yesterday morning and looked very rapid. It didn't do qualifying properly, but it made it into Q3 though, didn't he? It didn't do qualifying properly because of the engine penalty that he was going to have, but now he's fighting with the Alfa Romeos that have had no pace all weekend.
And they seem to say that if you replace your engine here, that new engine that you put into that car should give you a performance upgrade, because here it's such a power sensitive circuit. Yet it doesn't seem that the McLaren is being able to do that at the moment. Just to let you know, Leclerc reporting that his rears are starting to go, so maybe expect Ferrari to get into the pit lane soon to receive Leclerc for his second pit stop.
Okay, so where is that going to bring Leclerc out then? So if he loses about 18 seconds, he's going to come out... Well, so they're trying to extend it to come out in front of the Ocon, Albon, Ricciardo queue, because at the moment they'd come out there or thereabouts, and that's what cost them when they pitted before. They thought they were going to come out in front of Ricciardo and didn't, so that's what they're trying to avoid this time around. Leclerc did a 54.6 on that last lap, Ricciardo and Albon a 55.9, so he's got the pace to be able to pull out some advantage. And here's a big pressure from Lance Stroll on Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to the inside as they come into Eau Rouge. They go side by side in there, and Ricciardo holds the place. Stroll thought about it, but Ricciardo was not backing off from that one as they come down the Kemmel Straight now. This is for the final points paying position, and Stroll isn't quite close enough to get Ricciardo coming into the chicane at the end of the straight, and he'll have to wait now until the bus stop next time around. But the overtake into Eau Rouge is always a bit like, it just feels a bit braggy, you know, like in reality you should just wait and get him up into Les Combes, but when you want to get it done.
When you pull it off, it is spectacular. I remember, I think it was the Alonso Webber one from, like, what was it, more than 10 years ago now. What a phenomenal
2012
move.
or something like that, I think it must have been.
Then it was 10 years ago, wasn't it? It was unbelievable. But you are right, with the help of DRS, there's no reason why you can't just blend off the throttle a little bit, going down to Radion and Eau Rouge, and then get them at the top of the hill. Science Radio.
And try to avoid the bump in turn 5. Try to avoid the bump in turn 5. It's quite important.
Try to avoid the bump in turn 5. So that's in the Les Combes sequence of corners. There's a bump somewhere and might be damaging the car in some way, I guess, for Carlos Sainz.
I don't know what it would be damaging, whether they're seeing spikes in sensors and something like that.
Yeah.
Just listening across to Leclerc again in that Ferrari. He's just been told if they pit now, they come out just in front of Albon, P9. That's their mathematics if it went well.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, isn't it, to come out in front of that queue. George Russell on that last lap was 9/10 quicker than Carlos Sainz, so we'll keep an eye on that one because he was pretty quick on the back of George Russell on that last lap. On the back of Carlos Sainz on that last lap. The lap before it was 1.1 seconds. The lap before that was 0.6 of a second. So we'll keep an eye on those lap times. We're on lap 25 of 44. Stroll again trying to close it on the back of Daniel Ricciardo for 10th place, but isn't quite close enough to do it. Max Verstappen's lead is now up to 10 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. That last lap he was a second quicker than his Red Bull teammate, and they're not even particularly offset in tyres anymore, whereas they were on different tyres at the start of the Grand Prix. Okay, Verstappen's are a little newer than Perez is now, but not a huge amount. In fact, one lap between them, basically. So this is really strong stuff, and Sainz is going to be coming into the pits then. Sainz is going to be coming into the pits now, comes into the bus stop chicane and enters the pit lane. The fight is still going on. There's a big old queue actually going on behind Albon, Ricciardo, Stroll and Norris, all up behind the Williams man. Into the pits now comes Carlos Sainz for Ferrari. Leclerc is coming in as well, so both Ferraris pitting on the same lap. It's a set of medium tyres for Carlos Sainz, set of hard tyres, for Carlos Sainz. So Sainz goes out onto the hards. Leclerc is going to be coming in and going onto the mediums. So they are doing different strategies then, as Leclerc comes in now, rips a tear off the visor, pulls in, and on goes a new set of medium tyres for Charles Leclerc, and he rejoins the race. So where's he going to come out, Leclerc? He's going to come out behind Vettel, behind Ocon, and behind Alonso. No, Alonso's pitted too. So is he going to get out in front of Alex Albon? It's going to be very tight, but he is. So Charles Leclerc emerges in 7th place with 2 cars ahead of him that presumably don't need to stop again in Vettel and Ocon, because they are both on the hard compound of tyre. Jenny?
I am expecting both of them to stop. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay. We're on lap 26 of 44 on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Verstappen managed to make up a few places. Sainz started on pole. Perez dropped down to 5th. The 2 Mercedes got ahead of him, but then Hamilton and Alonso collided on the halfway around the first lap. That put Hamilton out of the Grand Prix, deployed the safety car. Since then, Verstappen has just carved his way through the field and taken the lead of the Grand Prix. Alongside me in commentary is Sam Bird, the Formula E driver for the Jaguar team. And Verstappen is just in a class of his own all weekend, not just today.
Absolutely dominant, Jack. He's now 11.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field, pulling away lap after lap. I can only see this as a Verstappen-Perez Red Bull 1-2.
Jenny Gao is alongside us too, and Red Bull Ferrari have no response to this, do they? We've criticised them a lot throughout the course of the year for strategy errors or for Leclerc crashing, etc., reliability problems. But I don't think there's anything they could do about Red Bull so far today.
There are 10 teams in Formula One. At the moment, only one is shining. As you say, it is the Red Bull. They seem so far ahead of anybody else, and no one can do anything, whether it's mistakes, misjudgments, whatever it may be. Throw anything you want at that Red Bull team. They will just soak it up, and Verstappen especially.
Yeah, absolutely. He's leading now, 12 seconds ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez in 2nd place. There's great fights going on for the rest of the positions. George Russell is running 3rd for Mercedes, which is quite strong, as he tries to fight with Carlos Sainz for that final podium spot. Vettel is in 5th place. Hamilton out of the race after the opening lap. And full commentary on Sports Extra. So Russell in 3rd spot. Into the pits now comes Lance Stroll. Alex Albon is in as well for the Williams teams. This is a straight fight in the pits between Aston Martin and Williams. And Williams get out in front still. So came in ahead, emerges ahead too. Lots of strategy and pit stops going on in this race. Lap 27 of 44. Verstappen leading, Perez 2nd. So Russell is in 3rd spot. He presumably will need to pit again. Latifi is getting Stroll here as they come down into Eau Rouge. So Latifi and the other Williams managed to get ahead of Lance Stroll. He's made 2 pit stops already, so that'll be frustrating for Stroll. He'll try and fight back as quickly as possible as they come down into the Les Combes sequence of corners, but he's not able to do so. Perez is going to pit now from 2nd place, so another pit stop incoming for Sergio Perez. And where will that bring him out compared to Carlos Sainz? Will Sainz have been able to... I think he'd been too far back to undercut him, to be perfectly honest. Perez comes into the pit lane now on the medium tyre. The Red Bull comes in. It's a set of hard tyres waiting for Perez to do the remaining 17 laps of the Grand Prix, 2.4 seconds, very quick pit stop, and he is going to come out still in front of Carlos Sainz as he comes now towards the end of the pit lane through the tight right-hander that takes him back out onto the circuit, down towards Eau Rouge, and it is Perez who is still in a net second place. Russell still running in second, though, in the Mercedes, so he is yet to pit. Can he get a tyre offset on Carlos Sainz and try and attack Sainz in the closing stages? That 28 of 44. Jenny?
Yeah, just having a look as it stands at the moment. Verstappen leading this race, and the fastest lap to his name as well, would be on 284 points. 93, that would give him the advantage over his nearest rival, which is his teammate Perez, who would move up into second position in the championship. But a real gaggle fighting for that second place in the battle.
A lovely move from Fernando Alonso on Zhou Guanyu. Meanwhile, he's got him into 10th place, and he almost went around the outside at sort of the second part of Les Combes and forced Zhou offline and got the move done.
Yeah, fantastic move. And Alonso, I can almost sense Alonso saying that in the press conference area afterwards. You know, some drivers give me room, some drivers don't, referring to the incident with Lewis Hamilton that occurred on lap 1. I'm actually amazed that his car came out unscathed. It was a big whack. Russell, box now, radio message.
Alonso has now got ahead of Lando Norris as well, so Alonso is up into 9th place, and those McLarens may still have to pit again. Lance Stroll, meanwhile, has managed to get Nicholas Latifi into the bus stop chicane, sent it in from a long way back, but got the move done. And Norris now, who came into the pits and out of the pits just behind the Williams of Alex Albon, has lost quite a lot of time to Albon on the last few laps, so he's 1.5 seconds further back. Russell didn't come into the pit lane, so the radio message was to come into the pits, but deciding to stay out at the moment, George Russell. As he comes down in towards Eau Rouge again, he's 23 seconds back from Verstappen in the lead of the Grand Prix. He's got plenty of space to come out in front of Sebastian Vettel, so maybe they're just trying to create as big an offset as possible.
Well, I think they've seen Perez go onto the hard tyre. Now, if they do the same, the chances of catching Perez are not so big. If they can eke out another couple of laps and then go onto the medium tyre, or even the soft tyre at the end, because I think he's only used the mediums. If he can go onto the soft at the end and have that pace advantage and use the soft tyre with the lower fuel level, he'll have a chance of getting Perez.
I think there's going to be a whole gaggle coming in onto those softs if they can, as you say, make it last long enough. I don't think you'd really want to do more than about 10 to 12 laps on that soft tyre. 44 laps of the race, we're on to lap 29. So it is about eking this bit out, managing the tyre, which is something we hate to hear, but the reality is, manage this tyre, you might be able to make yourself very racy towards the end of this.
Alonso has got ahead of the next McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo, and so he is now up into 8th position. Is Fernando Alonso. He has made 2 pit stops. The McLarens have only made 1 pit stop so far. Leclerc has also got ahead of the Alpine of Esteban Ocon and is now up into 6th position as he tries to come back through the field, and his next target is going to be Sebastian Vettel, but Vettel may be stopping again in a few moments' time. Verstappen still leading, Russell still second and still staying out there. Mercedes ready in the pits with a set of hard tyres, but Russell comes into the pits now. So into the pits comes George Russell from second place onto a new set of hard tyres.
Clearly they weren't listening to us then, just as well they're not strategists for Mercedes.
Well, I think it's still the same effect, right, isn't it? It's still trying to create a bigger offset and have fresher tyres for longer up against your rival, Carlos Sainz. Sainz comes around the final corner now. I'm fairly sceptical that Russell's going to be able to catch him, even though the pace drop-off was quite big for Sainz at the end of his stint on those medium tyres, lap 30 of 44.
Just surprised they didn't want to do something different from everyone around them. Like you said, Sam,
who is around them? I think that's the thing for Russell. There is no one around him in reality.
Which means why not try something slightly different? But I think James Vowles knows more about what is happening in the race than we do, sat here in wherever we are. In the comms box.
Max Verstappen.
In an undisclosed location.
Max Verstappen leading the race. Perez in second is now 26 seconds back. And Verstappen, presumably, will be stopping again at some point. In fact, this lap around, Verstappen will come into the pits. Lap 30 of 44, and this will be the final pit stop for Max Verstappen. Comes through the right-hander at the bus stop, heads into the pit lane now. Medium tyres will be changed onto a set of hards. Another set of mediums, of course, because he started on the soft tyre. So into the pit lane now comes Verstappen. Off go the mediums, on go the mediums. Neat as you like, 2.3 seconds, and Verstappen makes his way back out into the lead of the Grand Prix with no one else anywhere near him. Perez is just coming through the bus stop chicane now as Verstappen rejoins the circuit, retakes the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix with 14 laps to go.
And we've seen this pace from Max Verstappen all weekend, haven't we, Jack? When we turned up and did free practice 1, the first couple of laps that he did compared to everybody it wasn't half a second or 1 second, it was 2 or 2.5 seconds quicker than everybody. And he's able to maintain a lot of that gap. It's been a phenomenal effort from Max Verstappen and from Red Bull. But the rest of the race, I've got to say, how exciting has it been not having a one-stop race?
Yeah.
The fact that there's been high deg has really mixed this up. It's been great to see.
No, completely agree. Love a two-stop race, and Charles Leclerc is trying to fight his way through the field to try and get ahead of Sebastian Vettel. They come through Eau Rouge now and up the hill to Raidillon, and this should be Leclerc's opportunity to get into 5th position. The Ferrari driver right behind the Aston Martin man goes to the inside, and Leclerc now up into 5th. So Charles Leclerc gets up into 5th place. Tsunoda is making another pit stop, so that promotes Albon up into 11th position, and everybody else gaining another place from Tsunoda, who started from the pit lane after he took engine changes as well. Lap 31 of 44. Verstappen leads 8.8 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. Then Carlos Sainz is in 3rd position, 7.3 seconds back from Perez. Russell is in 4th spot. Charles Leclerc is now up into 5th place, but it's 7 seconds or so from Russell. It's 6 seconds from Russell to Sainz. It's 13 seconds from Russell to Leclerc. Russell on that last lap did a personal best lap of the Grand Prix, so he is pushing George Russell. Sainz is pushing as well, both doing personal bests, and the gap is currently 6.2 seconds with 13 laps to go. So we'll keep an eye on that gap and whether Russell can try and bring it down. I'd be surprised if he could, but if he could, it would illustrate just how much quicker seemingly Mercedes are in race pace as opposed to qualifying.
Normally, at most races this year, Charles Leclerc has had a relative advantage compared to Carlos Sainz, and obviously Sergio Perez has not been as quick as Max Verstappen. But this weekend, Carlos Sainz has upped the game a little bit, or has Charles just not quite had his A game with him, because he's not really made any inroads. I know he's had the problem at the beginning of the race with the tear-off, but he's not shown dynamic pace to get to the back of Carlos and Sergio like we would normally see from Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, Sainz has been pretty good this weekend. Across the line comes Alex Albon. He's running in 11th place now, and the next man to try and attack him is Lance Stroll, who's a driver who I feel has made a lot of overtakes this afternoon, but doesn't actually seem to be climbing up through the order. He's still there in 12th position, Lance Stroll. I feel like he's passing people left, right and centre, but then they then pit, or he pits and they don't, or whatever way it transpires. But he's going to try and make another overtake now, this time on Alex Albon. He's 6/10 back as they begin on the Kemmel Straight, and I think he is a bit too far back.
Shifts are suddenly a lot slower.
Max, expect your shifts to return to normal behaviour within a lap or two.
So Max Verstappen saying his shifts are suddenly a lot slower, and the team saying it'll come back in a lap or two.
And while the slip shifts were a lot slower, he did the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, correct. A 1 minute 49.354. Now Russell's taken a second out of Sainz. The gap is now down to 5.3 seconds, where it was 6.3 seconds. It's now 5.1 seconds as they come through the next sequence of corners. So he has got some good pace here, Russell.
He's got good pace. and those tyres on sites are going to be really compromised by the end of this. He's going to have to stretch it out to an 18-19 lap stint on those hard tyres. Now that's pushing it to the most anybody's done at the moment on them, so he's going to have to look after them, whereas George Russell doesn't have that problem. He's on much fresher tyres, 3 laps in on the hard tyres. So this is definitely doable for Russell. I think he could catch Sainz and catch him relatively easily.
Yeah, we'll see what transpires on that one, because that is Toto Wolff was really downbeat after qualifying yesterday for the Mercedes team. Slow pit stop from Ocon, 3.3 seconds, so that'll cost him a little bit of ground. It's a neat and tidy pit stop for Daniel Ricciardo as he comes into the pit lane now and drops down out of the points-paying positions. So both McLarens out of the points at the moment. Albon is back up into 10th spot. Gasly, I think, still may have to pit again. Tsunoda is going to get ahead of Ricciardo here. So Tsunoda gets ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. So Ricciardo down in 15th place. So things really haven't worked out today for the McLaren team. Ricciardo's going to try and fight back.
The last lap was good.
I'm pushing a lot.
So Sainz being told, try your best. The last lap was good. And Sainz saying, guys, I'm pushing a lot. So whether there's an actual issue going on at Ferrari, or whether this is just their pace currently.
I think it's their pace. I don't think that there's anything else. You know, Charles Leclerc doesn't look particularly quick. Carlos has tried his best to stick in there, but I think that...
But Russell's now 4 seconds back. Yeah. The Mercedes is so much quicker.
The Mercedes, look, they don't fire their tyres up particularly quickly, but what they've got is tyre longevity, and we saw them doing quite a bit of homework on the Friday on the hard tyre, and we were saying, what are they doing on the hard? But it seems to be paying off now.
A lot colder, wasn't it? Track temperature was about 19 degrees, I think, on Friday. And the hard was
out of the window. Now it's in the window, and I think some of that homework is definitely paying off this afternoon.
Difference of about 15 degrees centigrade, I was told at the beginning of this race, between what it was on Friday and now. Very limited running on Friday as well. We had red flag, we had rain, so nobody had a real idea of what they could do. Well, they've got a better idea now.
Sebastian Vettel has now been in the pits as the Aston Martin driver emerges. He's going to be side by side pretty much with the Gasly AlphaTauri, and Gasly is now running in 7th position. Vettel drops down to 8th place. He's ahead of Esteban Ocon by a second or so, and that'll be frustrating because it was a really slow pit stop for Ocon.
What happens if we 3-stop?
Finish behind Russell for P4.
So Sainz being told, what happens if we 3-stop? And they say, well, then we'll finish 4th behind Russell, who will be on the podium in 3rd place. So really tough afternoon this for the Ferrari squad. 10 laps to go in the Belgian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen leading, Sergio Perez second, Sainz is third, but Russell is closing in on him for the final podium position. Lewis Hamilton out of the race, the man who's finished on the podium in the last 5 Grand Prix, was eliminated after an opening lap collision with Fernando Alonso. Jenny.
I'm just wondering if any of the other teams are thinking, is this going to have to be a 3-stopper? You've got Esteban Ocon out there. He's on 20-lap-old hard tyres at the moment. Vettel has just pitted. I think he just came into the pits when I was looking up. But 20 laps Ricciardo on the hard tyre as well. I mean, it's marginal.
Yeah. Well, we've got 10 laps to go, as we say, which doesn't feel like a lot, but this is the longest lap on the calendar.
Yeah, still over 70 kilometres of driving.
Lap 35 of 44. Down into the chicane comes Sebastian Vettel. 10 laps to go. Max Verstappen still leading, but the fight is on for 3rd place. Carlos Sainz, who started on pole, is falling into the clutches of George Russell in the Mercedes, who's looking to finish in 3rd place on the podium. So fights going on in the closing stages of the Belgian Grand Prix, including one from Sebastian Vettel, who's just managed to out-traction Pierre Gasly out of La Source, get alongside, and now very quickly behind is coming Esteban Ocon as they come up through Radion. He goes to the outside, but this is going to be a bit sketchy here because they're both going to be closing in on Sebastian Vettel. We're going 3 wide down the Kemmel Straight, and it is Gasly who gets back ahead, but Ocon tries to go around the outside and pulls it off 2 places gained for Esteban Ocon in the space of 2 corners. Beautiful stuff, and Ocon is up into 7th place, Gasly in 8th, and Vettel now goes to the inside at Bruxelles to get back ahead of the AlphaTauri driver. But brilliant stuff from Esteban Ocon, brave stuff from Esteban Ocon, and he's rewarded with a 7th place.
That is Schumacher-Hakkinen 2022, Jack. What a move, what an absolutely unbelievable bit of driving and skill from all 3 drivers. Watch Esteban Ocon choose the outside line and then stays around the outside, then he's got the inside line for the second part of the corner. Superb stuff. Yeah,
3 wide going up into Les Combes, and Ocon had to get it done on the brakes, didn't he? Really tentative from Pierre Gasly, but basically he was getting swamped anyway on the older tyres, so that's why he had just no grip coming into Les Combes. Beautiful stuff from Ocon. The gap now between Carlos Sainz and George Russell as they come up into the right-hander at Les Combes is down to 3 seconds now. So Sainz in 3rd, just 3 seconds ahead on that last lap. It was 1.1 seconds on lap 33. It was only a 10th on lap 34, but the gap is now 2.8 seconds. So it's come down a couple of tenths in these first few corners. Russell has got a real shot of the podium here.
And soon, Jack, he'll be within DRS zone. And this track, DRS zone, Sector 1 should be doable up to Les Combes.
So, lap 36 of 44. Verstappen leading, 14.5 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, 10 seconds back to Sainz, but that's where one of the fights on circuit is. The other is Sebastian Vettel on the back of Esteban Ocon, because Vettel had been... I think they'll be frustrated, Aston Martin, because Vettel obviously qualified a long way down the order, but the race pace had been pretty solid, and he lost out to Ocon in that kerfuffle. Ocon was the smarter almost with his racecraft, although to be fair, and that was one of those where Vettel got the drive, didn't he, coming out of La Source, got ahead of Gasly, but that meant he didn't have DRS on the Kemmel Straight, so he was a bit of a sitting duck. It's also pretty close in the queue behind Albon in 10th. Albon, Stroll, Norris and Zhou 1, 2, 3, 4 in 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and that's all over the final points paying position. Could they close in on Pierre Gasly? They were 2 seconds quicker on that last lap, but that was the lap that Gasly was having his fight, so they might be able to close in on Gasly for 9th position. They're 7.6 seconds back. I think that's a stretch. We've basically got 4 cars for the final points paying position, and Albon has qualified well yesterday, got into Q3 on merit, and is then trying to hold on there for a point, which was always valuable for Williams.
I think he's done a really solid job all weekend. He's shown his class. Okay, he's not in fancied machinery, but he's sticking on in there in the points. It would be nice to see Williams come away from Spa with a point or two. I think that he deserves it, and the team needs and deserves a couple of points as well. However, he's got a hungry Aston Martin and a McLaren breathing down his neck, so I really don't know how this one's going to pan out for him.
Lap 37 of 44 up into the hairpin. These 3 cars, in fact Tsunoda's joined the fight as well now, so those 4 cars are separated by barely anything. What is it, 2 seconds? 3 seconds between the 4 cars as they climb up the hill, and the advantage Albon has is that he's very, very quick in a straight line. Zhou's on a mission here. He could get Lando Norris coming down into Les Combes. Norris covers the inside. Zhou goes to the outside. Norris is able to hold it on the brakes. Zhou's actually out on the soft tyres. He's the only driver other than Nicholas Latifi, so, but, you know, whatever. Zhou's the only driver in contention who is out on the soft compound of tyres, so he's looking very, very racy at the moment. Lap 38 of 44. Meanwhile, Sainz and Russell, the gap is down to 2 seconds as they come across the line. Even though Russell was only a 10th quicker on that last lap, the gap is down to 2 seconds. Lots of fights going on as they come into Pouhon.
So, if the race finishes as it is right now, with 8 races to go, Verstappen would have a 96-point advantage. Jenny, is that correct?
It was 93 last time I checked. Hang on a second.
I thought it was 80.
93.
93.
284 points for Verstappen. Perez would have 191 points, 186 to Leclerc. So maybe you're counting out of team battles, not intra-team battles.
Yes, I'm counting to Leclerc.
My apologies, Sam.
That's okay. I was counting to Leclerc. It goes to show the difficult season Leclerc and Ferrari have had. It started so well, didn't it? It was so promising. The fact that Perez, who was also had a fairly underwhelming season, apart from a couple of races like Monaco, he finds himself in second.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a remarkable season this for Red Bull that it's turning into. Big lock-up from Lance Stroll in 11th place, and that compromises him a little bit. He drops back. Carlos Sainz is now being told to avoid the bump in turn 17, so that's Blanchimont, I guess, or one of the corners sort of on the way to Blanchimont. So they're not loving the bumps out there. Russell is down to 1.8 seconds back from Carlos Sainz. Can he get in DRS range in the final 6 laps of the Grand Prix? Verstappen leading, Perez second, Sainz third, Russell fourth, Leclerc is in 5th place, Alonso, Ocon, Vettel, Gasly and Albon, the top 10, Stroll, Norris, Joe, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, the top 15.
I'm honestly beginning to struggle quite a bit. It's too late for Plan G. We need to make this work.
So Norris saying, I'm beginning to struggle with these tyres, and the team saying, it's too late. If we pit now, we're cooked. So we've got to make it work. And they're in 12th at the moment. Horrible day this for McLaren.
I don't really understand what's not working for them, because they're on the mediums. They've only done 8 laps on those medium tyres, which isn't the most of anybody out there. For example, Gasly's on 15-lap-old medium tyres as well. Leclerc, 13-lap-old medium tyres. It's very strange what's going on for them.
Yeah, really struggling, McLaren. Verstappen leading the race still, and he's going to be starting his 40th lap in a few moments' time. Russell can see Carlos Sainz. The charge has slowed just a little. Last couple of laps, it's only been a 10th here, 2 tenths there. Needs to try and get into DRS range if he wants to do it. Lap 39 of 44, out over the start, finish straight, and down towards the first corner. Albon is still running in 10th place with all these cars queued up behind him, but Albon has the most straight line speed out of all of them, so he's able to hold on to that position. Ricciardo has now joined the back of that fight as well, so from 10th down through 15th position, the gap is just 3.7 seconds. Now Verstappen comes across the line to start lap 40, so 5 laps to go. Joe is under pressure here from Yuki Tsunoda as they come up the Camel Straight. Tsunoda is closing and closing. Joe covers the inside and is able to hold that 13th place at the moment. It's a great fight, but only one of them is going to come out of this with any points, and at the moment that is Alex Albon, who's in 10th place, 0.6 of a second ahead of the Aston Martin. Across the line comes Sainz and Russell. It's 2.5 seconds now. So Russell's charge has really kind of slowed down, or well, maybe Sainz's pace has picked up, because he's lapping similarly now to Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. So maybe Sainz is pushing a little more as the two come up Radion and down towards the not the Fagnes chicane, the Lacombe again. And Verstappen's lead is 16.7 seconds. He is bossing this Grand Prix. Alonso is all by himself in 6th position. And Jenny, this is a big day. It's not a huge day, but Alpine 6th and 7th for Alonso and Ocon. We've spoken about McLaren's woes, but actually this has been a really good day for the Alpine team.
Yeah, you've got to take your chances when you can. Coming into this, there were just 4 points separating Alpine and McLaren. Now, Alpine are currently sitting, if it finishes like this, on 109 points, whereas McLaren will be on 97. So that gap growing impressively, one would say. And bearing in mind they're going in front of, well, one of their potential drivers is going to be going in front of the Board of Contract Recognition tomorrow to see if he's going to be an Alpine driver or a McLaren driver next season. It's a feisty background and a feisty foreground, one would suggest, between those two teams. No love lost between them.
Do you think Piastri's changing his mind about now?
No.
Like, it was Jenson Button, wasn't it, who did that deal to join Williams at one point and then sort of tried, and then
with
was like,
Benetton, was it?
No, he was at BAR, I think, wasn't he? And then he tried to back out of it at the last minute or something, or he had a few contract issues, didn't he, Button?
I don't think there's enough wood in the Ardennes forest to rebuild that bridge that Piastri has spectacularly burnt down between him and Alpine. That is gone.
Yeah, Otmar Safnauer in the press conference yesterday going, I would have expected a bit more integrity. What's the word he was saying? listen to the Thursday preview show if you want on the Checker Flag podcast. But if you don't want to, then don't. But it's available on BBC Sounds and wherever else you get your podcasts. But we'll also have all the post-race reaction from this Belgian Grand Prix, which will be available to download later on. And then we'll be back with you on Thursday for a Dutch Grand Prix preview.
And we'll know what happened with Piastri by then, so we'll be able to line up whether he's gone grovelling back to Alpine or not. Spectacular week coming up.
Lap 41 of 44, and the Orange Army that have filled the grandstands here and are watching Max Verstappen romp to victory will be desperate to see something similar in the Netherlands next week.
Thinking back to last year's Zandvoort, he was impressive there as well, wasn't he? I mean, it was a mightily dominant weekend, and I can't see it being any different next week. He's just incredible.
Can you see anybody else currently winning a Grand Prix? Because
not for the next 4 years.
It's the skill set that he possesses is phenomenal enough, and then intertwine that with Adrian Newey and everybody at Red Bull, and this is what happens. I mean, he's so far up the road. I really hope that Ferrari come away from here, regroup, and bring something to the table at Zandvoort, because this has been so dominant, hasn't it? It's been unbelievable from Red Bull, and specifically from Max Verstappen.
I think they've got a shot at Zandvoort for Ferrari, because it's not, quite as straight line speedy. It's a different circuit. I think when we go to Monza, Ferrari will be in a little bit of trouble, but I think Zandvoort, there's a chance that we could have a good fight. Verstappen is 17.4 seconds ahead now of Sergio Perez. Sainz in third, 2 to run in the Belgian Grand Prix, and it is Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Russell, Leclerc, the top 5. Alonso, Ocon, Vettel, Gasly, Albon still there in 10th place, still just half a second ahead of Lance Stroll, but still keeping ahead of the Canadian at the moment. Norris in 12th, 13th for Zhou, 14th for Tsunoda, 15th for Ricciardo, and the gap has stayed at 2 seconds between Sainz and Russell. So Sainz is still holding on for a third place finish in the Ferrari, and that would bring him actually not that close, but he would chip away at Leclerc's advantage ahead of him in the championship, wouldn't it? And he'd get ahead of George Russell up into 4th.
Just having a look at what Lewis Hamilton has said post his collision with Fernando Alonso that took him out of the race in lap 1. He was saying, well, looking back, he was in my blind spot. I didn't give him enough space. It is my fault. But he's also got a rap on the knuckles from the FIA. He didn't go to the medical centre after that crash, even though the light on his dash said he should do because of the impact. So he's had an official warning.
Yeah.
They're giving them away this weekend. 1 for Verstappen, 1 for Hamilton.
Well, at least Hamilton's saying basically the truth, which is nice to see. Oh, Yuki Tsunoda has just got ahead of Zhou with the latest possible move down into the bus stop. They were so close when Tsunoda decided to pull out the slipstream.
I enjoy watching Yuki Tsunoda, don't you? I mean, it's always quite exciting. There's always a late move in there or some drama.
Certainly is. And Verstappen is on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix now. Carlos Sainz still holding that 2-second advantage over Russell. Leclerc hasn't made any progress on the back of Russell either. Fastest lap at the moment is Max Verstappen's. He's almost got enough of a margin to pit and go again for the fastest lap, but I don't think he will. I don't think anyone else will, actually. No one else has got enough of a margin to pit and go for fastest lap. Well, apart from, maybe Leclerc. Maybe Leclerc then. So into the pits comes Leclerc. He's only got 18.9 seconds to Alonso here. It's going to need to be a quick pit from Leclerc. On goes a new set of tyres. It's a little bit sticky. He makes his way out of the pit lane now. Alonso is just coming out of the bus stop chicane, and this is going to be tight here between Alonso and Leclerc, and Alonso might be able to do this through the final corner, then down towards Eau Rouge, and Alonso's got the run on Charles Leclerc as they come into Eau Rouge at the bottom of the hill. He tucks into the slipstream behind, and he's going to get DRS coming up towards Les Combes. Here they come then. Alonso right in the slipstream, looking for 5th position, pulls to the inside, opens the DRS, and Alonso gets ahead of Charles Leclerc and up into 5th position.
Could he just be using him as a tow to make sure he gets the fastest lap going into his final lap? He's got the new softs on. Could this be strategy genius from Ferrari?
We'll wait and see. Joe, meanwhile, has tried to get back at Yuki Tsunoda and has around the outside into Les Combes. But this is a very, very interesting move. Well, I mean, he's got a tyre advantage, has Charles Leclerc, so he should be able to get back ahead of Alonso at some point, and yet maybe that will help. Surely it wasn't the plan, right? Surely that wasn't.
Surely they look at the numbers like we do and go, that's tight, that's tight.
Yeah, but didn't they put Sainz out earlier behind Daniel Ricciardo when he pitted? So maybe they've got the wrong number. Maybe they haven't been briefed by the same engineers that you have, Jen. Verstappen, meanwhile...
I'm expecting them not to have been briefed by the same engineers. Let's put it that way.
Unless he can get him here. He might be able to get him here coming down into the bus stop, Charles Leclerc. He's not closing in a huge amount. Looks to the inside, and he's not. If they lose this 5th place, I'm afraid we've got another thing to add to the list. The cheers you can hear are the Max Verstappen fans who are watching their man dominate the Belgian Grand Prix, and he is coming into the final 2 major corners on the circuit. Leclerc's got the run on Alonso now as they come down towards Eau Rouge, but it's not going to be surely the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but it doesn't matter anyway for Verstappen. Max Verstappen is into the final couple of corners. He started this race in 14th on the grid. He carved through the field on the opening laps, and nobody has been anywhere near him. He comes across the line, slides out of the final corner, and takes victory at the Belgian Grand Prix. Absolutely dominant win. And if the championship looked to be done and dusted beforehand, on this kind of form, there's not going to be anyone able to stop Verstappen. Sergio Perez finishes 2nd. Carlos Sainz holds off George Russell to finish 3rd after Russell did a spirited drive, and Charles Leclerc can only finish 5th for the Ferrari team. Max Verstappen wins the Belgian Grand Prix. Leclerc is doing a personal best now. He is doing a personal best in the middle sector. Sainz has come across the line in 3rd. Russell has come across the line in 4th. Verstappen has returned to the pit lane now, though, and this is his radio.
Congratulations. Awesome drive.
Amazing Sunday, guys. Gone with a rocket ship all weekend. Unbelievable.
Max, you've been brilliant all weekend. Class of your own, mate. Absolutely well deserved. Enjoy it.
Undoubtedly one of Verstappen's best weekends in Formula One for my money. I think he's just been unbelievable from start to finish. Here comes Leclerc through the final corner. We might as well see whether he's going to get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's got to beat a 1:49.3 out across the line, takes the checkered flag. Oh, and it's a 49.9. 6 tenths slower than Max Verstappen managed, but at least he did still finish in that 5th place, even if it was a bit of an interesting one. Verstappen jumps out of the car and gets weighed, has a brief hug with the FIA president, who is down there lurking in Parc Fermé. Across the line comes Sebastian Vettel. Leclerc finished 5th, Alonso in 6th, Ocon 7th, 8th for Vettel, 9th for Pierre Gasly, and Albon holds on for 10th place. Alex Albon picks up a point for the Williams team in 10th position. Stroll in 11th, Norris in 12th, Tsunoda 13th, 14th for Joe, 15th for Ricciardo, and then it is Magnussen, Schumacher and Latifi, the top 18. Oh, pit lane incident involving Charles Leclerc noted. Speeding in the pit lane. Speeding in the pit lane. And if he gets a penalty for that, I would suggest that would be a drive-through penalty converted into a time penalty, which would end up putting him... well, we'll see. If it's about 20 seconds... might even be out of the points, could be down in 7th or 8th places, so we'll wait and see what happens there. Speeding in the pit lane is normally a bit of a slam dunk, really, isn't it? It's not a debatable topic.
No, it needs to be, you need to be on or under the set speed, which is 80 kilometers an hour in Formula One. 80.5 or 81, it's a no-go, you get a penalty. So yeah, that's normally, considering it hasn't been an issue all weekend for him. We've not seen any paperwork to suggest that Ferrari have had issues with the pit speed limiter. I think that would be finger trouble or not being able to stop the car properly on entry to the pit lane.
So the crowd now invade the track around the start-finish straight area to go and stand underneath the podium that overlooks the main grandstand at Spa, and there will be lots of Dutch fans underneath it. Another 1-2 for Red Bull this year, and really there was nothing that Ferrari could do about them. A little high-five handshake between Sainz and Verstappen. Dominant.
Just so dominant, so impressive from Verstappen, who I think has just grown and grown, and that championship win last year taught him more tricks to add to his box. He is such a complete and well-rounded driver. Time penalty, 5 seconds added to Leclerc for speeding in the pit lane. Jack, what does that do for him?
I think that only puts him behind Alonso, so he loses out to Alonso, 6th place.
It's a strange penalty.
That's really odd.
Really strange.
Because every speeding in the pit lane is a drive-through penalty. That's a really, really odd decision.
Look forward to seeing the paperwork on that one. They just shouldn't have. Don't bring him in.
They
didn't need to, and it counts for nothing.
Who's your driver of the day, guys?
Oh, you've gone early with that, Sam Bird.
Well, I thought I'd get it in there.
Well, first of all, let's hear from our top three, shall we? We're starting with Carlos Sainz, who finished in 3rd place, and he is down in Parc Fermé talking to Martin Brundle.
Sainz, congratulations, another podium, but you really had to work hard for it today.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was harder than expected. I mean, we got a good start, a good restart after the safety car, but the pace was just not there. We had a lot of overheating on the tires. We were sliding around a lot, and for some reason our package wasn't quite there this weekend, but in the end we finished on a podium, and we will take it.
George Russell was hunting you down. Were you confident you had enough speed to keep him back?
No, first 2 laps were strong, but then we immediately went into high degradation, and then I realized that we were degrading more than what we should. Red Bull, Max and Checo, they were on their own today, and unfortunately we couldn't put a stronger fight, but we had to survive. But we will have to learn why at this track we were not so competitive.
Well, you've not got long, because we've got 2 more races coming up soon. So good luck next week in Zandvoort.
Yeah, Zandvoort should be a better track for us. Monza should be advantage for Red Bull there, but we will try and win it in Zandvoort.
Thank you. And talking of Red Bull, 2nd place man, Sergio Perez. Sergio, satisfied with that one?
I really hope for more. Today was a good opportunity, but Max was just flying. He was on another planet and was untouchable. Especially the first team was quite poor in terms of degradation, but still it's a very strong result for the team. And I think we managed to get a lot of points today, which is important, and looking forward.
Yeah, 1-2 for the team. A little bit difficult off the start down to the first corner, but you kept your head and pulled it around.
Yeah, it was a bit of chaos on lap 1. I had a really poor start and lost a few positions. Managed to get them all back into turn 5.
Yeah, you had to keep an eye on Fernando and Lewis getting together in front of you there.
Yeah, it was a very hectic that lap 1 and a lot of contacts around.
Great day for the team. Well done.
Thank you.
And our incredible victor, Max Verstappen. A huge crowd here supporting. Many of them supporting you. You gave them what they wanted. It seemed to me nobody could stop you winning this race today.
It was quite a hectic first lap to try and stay out of trouble. So many things were happening in front of me. But once we settled in after the safety car, the car was really on rails. Picked the right places to pass people, and we could look after our tires, and that's how we made our way forward. And after that, once we were in the lead, it was all about managing everything. But this whole weekend has been incredible.
Hey, it'd be one to talk to your grandchildren about down the road. P14 on the grid. You won, fastest lap, driver of the day. You must be so happy.
No, of course, it's been a weekend, I couldn't imagine before, but I think we want more of them, so we keep on working hard.
All right, so next up, of course, your home Grand Prix in Zandvoort.
Yeah, let's see what we can do there. I mean, of course, I'm going to enjoy it today, and then we'll see next week what we can do.
Our World Championship leader, Max Verstappen.
Well, what a thoroughly dominant weekend from Max Verstappen, and he waves to the crowd, which a huge swathe are dressed in orange. The Orange Army will now pack up their tents. They will transport them to Zandvoort, and they will wait to welcome their home hero. It will be spectacular. Make sure you join us in just 1 week's time. We will discuss everything that's happened here in the Checker Flag podcast. If you don't subscribe already, why not? And do. It's good. Sam Bird teed it up beautifully. We will tell you who we think is our driver of the day, or our drivers of the day, in that podcast. We won't do it now, Sam, sorry. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Thanks to Jack and the production team as well. As I said, the preview podcast comes on Thursday ahead of all the action from Zandvoort. But Max Verstappen leaves the Belgian Grand Prix with a 93-point lead over his nearest rival and teammate Sergio Perez with 8 races to go. That's it from Spa. Now let's head to Edgbaston for the cricket.
Thank you very much and welcome to 5 Live.